hadn't heard from Garrison in 8 months, not since the divorce papers were signed, and he vanished without even saying goodbye to our son. So when his name lit up my phone screen at 9:47 p.m. with those 5 words, "Hide your son, right now," my blood turned to ice. My name is Valora, and I'm about to tell you how my ex-husband's paranoia saved our lives. 8 months of silence. 8 months of explaining to my 7-year-old son, Finley, why Daddy didn't call on his birthday. 8 months of rebuilding our lives without the man who used to check our locks 17 times before bed. And then 5 words shattered everything I thought I knew about why Garrison left us. That night started like any other Thursday. Finley was in the living room battling digital dragons on his game console while I stood at the kitchen sink, scrubbing spaghetti sauce off dinner plates. The apartment was warm, comfortable, safe. We'd moved here after the divorce, choosing this quiet complex on Maple Street specifically because it felt like a fresh start. Second floor, corner unit, good schools nearby, and Mrs. Quincy next door who loved babysitting Finley when I had night shifts at the hospital. The funny thing about danger is that it never announces itself the way you expect. There's no dramatic music, no storm clouds gathering, just your phone buzzing on a counter while your hands are covered in soap suds. When I saw Garrison's contact photo appear on my screen, my first thought wasn't fear. It was anger. How dare he reach out now? After abandoning us, after leaving Finley to wonder if he'd done something wrong, after all those nights I held our son while he cried for his daddy. My second thought was confusion. Garrison had been meticulous about cutting all ties. He'd changed his number, deleted his social media, even had his former police partner tell me he'd moved out of state. So why now? Why tonight? Then I read the message. Hide your son. Right now. 5 words that made every maternal instinct in my body scream. This wasn't Garrison being dramatic. During our 10 years together, through his time as a detective, through all his paranoid episodes and middle-of-the-night safety drills, I'd learned to recognize the difference between his anxiety and his genuine warnings. This was real fear, real danger. I typed back with shaking fingers, getting soap bubbles on my phone screen. What are you talking about? The 3 dots appeared immediately, showing he was typing. They danced on my screen for 5 seconds, 10 seconds, then vanished. Nothing. Garrison, you can't just text me after 8 months and say something like that. What's going on? No response. My wet hands left prints on my phone as I carried it with me, moving toward the living room where Finley sat cross-legged on the carpet, completely absorbed in his game. His dark hair, the same unruly waves as his father's, fell into his eyes as he concentrated. He was wearing his favorite dinosaur pajamas, the ones with the T-Rex that he insisted weren't too childish, even though I'd bought them when he was 5. "Mom, look!" "I'm about to beat the boss," he said without looking up, his fingers working the controller with practiced ease. I wanted to freeze this moment, this last second of normal, this final breath before everything changed, because I knew, with a certainty that sat like lead in my stomach, that our quiet life was about to shatter. The first knock came soft and polite, like a neighbor dropping by to borrow sugar. 3 measured taps that somehow sounded wrong for 9:52 at night. Finley's hand stopped moving on his controller. He looked up at me, and in his green eyes, Garrison's eyes, I saw the question forming. "Were you expecting someone, Mom?" I wasn't. Nobody visited us on Thursday nights. My mother, Marlena, always called before coming over. My brother, Deacon, would text first. Mrs. Quincy would use her special knock, 2 quick, 3 slow, that she'd taught Finley was Morse code for Q. This was 3 identical knocks, perfectly spaced, deliberately normal. The second set of knocks came harder, more insistent. And then I heard it. The sound that made my knees nearly buckle. Knocking at our back door, too. The back door that opened onto a narrow balcony that could only be accessed by climbing up from the ground or coming from the roof. Synchronized knocking, front and back, like hunters coordinating their approach. My phone lit up again. Garrison, whatever you do, don't open the door. They found you because of me. I'm so sorry. I grabbed Finley's shoulder, probably too hard because he winced. Bedroom. Now, lock your door. Mom, you're scaring me. Go! He ran, his dinosaur slippers slapping against the hardwood. I heard his bedroom door slam, the lock clicking into place. Good boy, just like we'd practiced all those times when Garrison made us run drills I'd thought were insane. The knocking stopped. The silence that followed was deafening. I stood in my living room, barefoot, still holding a dish towel, listening to my heartbeat thunder in my ears. Somewhere in the building, I could hear the muffled sound of someone's television. Normal people living normal lives, unaware that 3 feet from their walls, a mother was standing between her child and something that had finally crawled out of her ex-husband's paranoid nightmares. My phone buzzed one more time. Garrison again. The Corvus Group. I tried to stop them. Failed. They're cleaning up loose ends. You and Finley are loose ends. I didn't know what the Corvus Group was, but I knew that tone in Garrison's messages. It was the same tone he'd had the night he'd woken me at 3 a.m., made me memorize the location of every weapon he'd hidden in our old house, made me promise that if he ever told me to run, I wouldn't ask questions. Just run, Valora. Promise me. Take Finley and run. I'd promised, thinking I was humoring my husband's growing paranoia. Now, as I heard the subtle scratch of metal against metal, someone picking our lock with professional precision, I understood that Garrison hadn't been paranoid at all. He'd been preparing us for tonight. Life had finally started feeling normal again. 4 months after moving into our apartment on Maple Street, Finley and I had found our rhythm. Morning routines that worked, inside jokes that made us both laugh, and Friday movie nights where we'd make a fort out of couch cushions and eat popcorn for dinner. The divorce had been finalized in January, and now, in September, the sharp edges of that pain had smoothed into something manageable. "Mom, can we have pizza tonight?" Finley called from the living room, his voice competing with the electronic battle sounds of his video game. "We had pizza yesterday, buddy. How about spaghetti? With meatballs." "Extra meatballs," I promised, pulling the ground beef from the freezer. This was our life now. Simple negotiations about dinner, homework battles that ended in compromise, and bedtime stories about brave knights and clever dragons. Finley had stopped asking about his father every day. Now it was maybe once a week, usually something small like, "Do you think Dad would like my new teacher?" Or, "Remember when Dad taught me to ride my bike?" Each question was a little stab to my heart, but we were healing. I'd met Garrison 12 years ago at a charity fundraiser for the Children's Hospital where I worked as a pediatric nurse. He was providing security detail, standing near the entrance in his crisp police uniform, scanning the crowd with those intense green eyes that seemed to see everything. When a drunk guest got aggressive with the staff, Garrison handled it with such calm efficiency that I found myself watching him for the rest of the evening. "You keep staring at that cop," my colleague Jennifer had teased. "I'm not staring. I'm observing." "Well, observe your way over there and introduce yourself." I did. Garrison smiled when I approached, and that smile transformed his entire face from stern protector to someone warm and approachable. We talked for 3 hours that night, long after his shift ended. He told me about joining the force to make a difference. I told him about becoming a nurse after watching my younger brother battle leukemia. We were both people who wanted to save others, just in different ways. We married 2 years later in a small ceremony in my mother Marlena's backyard. Garrison's partner, Detective Mills, was his best man. My brother Deacon walked me down the aisle, cracking jokes the entire way to keep me from crying off my mascara. Everything felt perfect, like 2 puzzle pieces that had finally found each other. Finley arrived 3 years into our marriage, born during a thunderstorm that knocked out power to half the city. Garrison held my hand through 23 hours of labor, never complaining, never leaving my side. When the doctor placed our son on my chest, Garrison touched Finley's tiny fist with one finger and whispered, "I'll keep you safe. Always." That was when things started to change. At first, it was small things, extra locks on the doors, security cameras that covered every angle of our property. He'd wake up at odd hours to check the windows, walking through our house like he was clearing a crime scene. When Finley started crawling, Garrison baby-proofed everything twice, then added additional measures I'd never seen in any parenting book. "Honey, he's not going to be able to unlock a deadbolt at 8 months old," I'd said, watching him install a 3rd lock on Finley's nursery window. "It's not about him getting out," Garrison had replied. "It's about someone getting in." The paranoia escalated after he made detective. He'd come home from cases unable to eat, unable to sleep, pacing our living room until dawn. He started teaching me self-defense moves while I was cooking dinner. He'd quiz me on escape routes while we were watching TV. Family walks became lessons in situational awareness. "See that man by the blue car?" he'd whisper while pushing Finley's stroller through the park. "What's wrong with his outfit?" "Garrison, I don't want to play this game." "His shoes. They're tactical boots, but he's wearing casual clothes. That's someone trying to blend in who doesn't quite know how. Or maybe he just likes comfortable shoes." But Garrison saw threats everywhere. He installed a panic room in our basement, stocked with enough supplies for a week. He made me memorize the layouts of all the buildings I frequented. He taught Finley, at age 4, how to call 911 and recite our address. The breaking point came last December. I'd gone down to the basement to look for Christmas decorations and found a hidden room behind what I'd thought was a storage shelf. Inside were dozens of case files, photographs of people I didn't recognize, surveillance equipment, and enough weapons to arm a small squad. Red strings connected photos on a corkboard, like something out of a conspiracy theorist's nightmare. When I confronted him, he stood in the doorway of that room, shoulders sagging with exhaustion. "How long has this been going on?" I asked. 2 years. 2 years of what, Garrison? What is all this? The less you know, the safer you are. That's not an answer. I'm your wife, Finley's mother. We deserve the truth. He looked at me for a long moment, and I saw him weighing something in his mind. Then he shook his head. Some truths are too dangerous to share. 3 weeks later, he signed the divorce papers without argument. He gave me full custody of Finley, the house, everything. The only thing he asked was that I keep the emergency supplies and maintain the security system. Then he vanished completely. Now, standing in my kitchen 8 months later, watching spaghetti sauce bubble on the stove while my son played video games in the next room, I understood that Garrison hadn't been paranoid. He'd been terrified. And whatever had scared him enough to abandon his family, rather than endanger us, had finally found us anyway. The text came while I was washing dishes, my hands deep in soapy water, scrubbing the remnants of spaghetti sauce from our dinner plates. The kitchen was warm and humid from the steam, the window cracked open to let in the September evening air. I almost didn't hear my phone buzz over the sound of running water. When I glanced at the screen and saw Garrison's name, my hands froze mid-scrub. His contact photo stared back at me, a picture from our wedding day where he was laughing at something Deacon had whispered during the ceremony. That man in the photo felt like a stranger now. "Hide your son. Right now." I read it 3 times before my brain processed the words. My wet fingers fumbled with the phone, leaving soap suds on the screen as I typed back, "What are you talking about?" The 3 dots appeared immediately. He was typing. They bounced on my screen for 5 seconds, 10 seconds, then vanished without a message. My heart rate doubled. "Garrison, you can't just text me after 8 months and say something like that. What's going on?" "Nothing." The message showed as delivered, then read, but no response came. I set the phone down and dried my hands properly, then picked it up again, as if doing things in the right order would make this make sense. My hands were shaking now. In 10 years of knowing Garrison through all his paranoid episodes and middle-of-the-night panic attacks, I'd never seen him use those specific words. "Hide your son. Not our son. Your son." Like he'd already separated himself from us completely. "Finley, come here, please," I called, trying to keep my voice steady. "But Mom, I'm about to beat this level. The dragon is down to like 10% health." "Now, Finley?" Something in my voice must have broken through his gaming focus because I heard the controller hit the coffee table and his footsteps padding toward the kitchen. He appeared in the doorway, his dinosaur pajamas making him look younger than his 7 years. "What's wrong, Mom?" "You look weird." Before I could answer, 3 knocks echoed through our apartment. Soft, measured, polite. The kind of knock that shouldn't have been terrifying but was, because it was 9:52 at night and we weren't expecting anyone. Finley's eyes widened. "Who's that?" I stepped between him and the door instinctively. "I don't know." 3 more knocks, slightly harder this time. Then what made my blood turn to ice. 3 identical knocks from our back door, the back door that opened onto a narrow balcony 20 feet off the ground. Someone would have had to climb up or come down from the roof to reach it. Mom? Finley's voice was small now, scared. I grabbed his shoulders, turning him to face me. Go to your room. Lock the door. Remember what Daddy taught you about the emergency hiding. Spot? Under the bed where the floorboard is loose? Yes. Go there if anyone tries to come in except me. Do you understand? He nodded, his green eyes, so much like Garrison's, filling with tears he was trying not to shed. Is Dad coming? Just go. Now. He ran down the hall, his dinosaur slippers slapping against the hardwood. I heard his door close, the lock turn. Good. One thing Garrison's paranoia had given us was a son who knew how to follow emergency protocols without arguing. My phone buzzed again. Garrison, whatever you do, don't open the door. They found you because of me. I'm so sorry. I typed with trembling fingers. Who are they? Garrison, what did you do? This time his response was immediate. The Corvus Group. I tried to stop them, failed. They're cleaning up loose ends. You and Finley are loose ends. The Corvus Group. I'd never heard that name before, but the way he wrote it, like I should know what it meant, sent chills down my spine. How many secrets had my ex-husband been keeping? How many dangers had he been tracking while I complained about too many locks on our doors? The knocking stopped. The sudden silence was worse than the sound. I stood perfectly still, straining to hear anything beyond my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. Somewhere above us, Mrs. Patterson was watching her nightly game shows, the muffled sound of a laugh track bleeding through the ceiling. Normal life continuing while mine balanced on a knife's edge. Then I heard it. A soft metallic scratching at the front door lock, precise, professional, nothing like the fumbling of a drunk neighbor at the wrong apartment. Someone was picking our lock with the kind of skill that came from practice. My phone lit up again. They're private military contractors, hired killers. I was investigating them when I was a detective. Human trafficking, weapons smuggling, murder for hire. I got too close. They threatened to kill you and Finley if I didn't back off. I wanted to scream at him through the phone, wanted to demand why he hadn't told me, why he'd left us vulnerable and unaware. But there wasn't time for anger. The scratching at the lock continued, patient and methodical. So you left us? I typed quickly. I made a deal. I'd disappear, destroy my evidence, and they'd leave you alone. But I didn't destroy it. I kept gathering more. They found out tonight. They're coming to eliminate everyone who might know something. Even if you don't know anything, they won't take chances. The lock clicked open. My heart stopped. I heard the doorknob turn slowly, testing. The chain lock was still engaged. Garrison had installed an expensive one that couldn't be cut with regular tools, but that would only buy us minutes. Is there another way out? I typed frantically. Remember the evacuation plan. Bathroom window to Mrs. Quincy's shed. Loose board in the back. 45 seconds from first breach. Go now. The chain lock went taut as someone pushed against the door. A man's voice, calm and professional, spoke from the other side. Mrs. Walsh, we just want to talk. Open the door and no one gets hurt. They knew my name. My married name that I'd kept after the divorce. This wasn't random. They'd been watching us, studying us, waiting for the right moment. Another voice from the back door, female this time. We have the building surrounded, Valora. Make this easy on yourself and your son. They knew about Finley. Of course they did. We'd been living our normal life, completely exposed while professional killers drew their net tight around us. Every trip to school, every grocery run, every playground visit, we'd been sheep grazing while wolves circled. The chain lock started to groan under pressure. They were testing its strength, calculating how much force it would take to break it. I had maybe 30 seconds before they came through. My phone buzzed one last time. Run! My mind snapped into focus with crystalline clarity. Every annoying drill Garrison had made us practice, every escape route he'd forced me to memorize, every contingency plan I'd rolled my eyes at, it all came flooding back like muscle memory. The chain lock groaned again, metal straining against wood. 20 seconds, maybe less. I sprinted to my bedroom closet, throwing aside winter coats and storage boxes I'd promised myself I'd sort through someday. Behind them, tucked into the corner exactly where Garrison had placed it, was a black tactical backpack. I'd forgotten about it, or maybe I'd chosen to forget, wanting to erase every trace of his paranoia from our new life. But there it sat, waiting for this exact moment. Inside, $3,000 in mixed bills, 2 sets of fake IDs with our photos but different names, a burner phone still in its packaging, a knife, pepper spray, and a sealed manila envelope with "Only if they find you" written in Garrison's precise handwriting. I slung it over my shoulder and ran to Finley's room. "Emergency game, buddy. Real one. Just like Daddy taught us." His small face appeared from under the bed, pale but determined. "Are they bad people, Mom?" "Yes. But we're going to be okay. You remember the bathroom window route?" He nodded, crawling out and grabbing his own small backpack from under his desk, the one designed to look like a regular school bag but containing supplies Garrison had carefully selected. My 7-year-old son moved with the efficiency of someone twice his age, and my heart broke a little watching him. No child should be this prepared for danger. A loud crack echoed from the front door. The chain was failing. Wood splintered around the mounting bracket. "Move, move, move," I whispered, pushing Finley ahead of me toward the bathroom. The bathroom window had always stuck. It was painted shut when we moved in, and I'd had to use a knife to break the seal. Garrison had insisted I practice opening it weekly until I could do it in under 5 seconds. I hadn't practiced in 8 months. My hands shook as I gripped the frame and pushed up. Nothing. I pushed harder, putting my legs into it. Behind us, I heard the chain lock finally give way with a metallic shriek. The front door opened, hitting the wall. Footsteps entered our apartment, measured, professional, not rushing. "Clear the living room," a male voice commanded. "Kitchen clear," came another voice. They were being methodical, room by room, like they had all the time in the world, like they knew we were trapped. The window finally popped open with a sound that seemed impossibly loud. Cool September air rushed in, carrying the scent of Mrs. Quincy's garden below. The drop was about 8 feet to her vegetable garden, not far for an adult but significant for a 7-year-old. "You first," I told Finley. "Hang from the ledge and drop. Roll when you hit like Daddy showed you." He didn't hesitate, wiggling through the window feet first. I held his hands as he lowered himself down, his dinosaur pajamas catching on the window frame. "Checking first bedroom," a voice called out, closer now. "Let go," I whispered to Finley. He dropped, landing with a soft thud in Mrs. Quincy's tomato plants. I saw him roll and pop back up, ready to run. My brave little boy. I threw one leg over the windowsill just as I heard our hallway floorboard creak, the one right outside Finley's room that we'd been meaning to fix. They were seconds away from the bathroom. I pushed off and dropped, landing hard on my left ankle. Pain shot up my leg like lightning, but adrenaline overrode it. Finley grabbed my hand, trying to help me up. "The shed," I gasped, limping forward. Mrs. Quincy's garden shed sat at the back of her property, old and weathered, looking like it might collapse in a strong wind. But Garrison had studied it, mapped it, found the loose board in the back that led to the alley. We stumbled through her garden, crushing vegetables I knew she'd spent all summer tending. Above us, a flashlight beam swept through the bathroom window. "They went out the back," North sighed, 2 subjects heading toward the adjacent property. The shed door was locked, but the board Garrison had identified was loose just as promised. I pulled it aside, creating a gap just wide enough for us to squeeze through. Splinters tore at my hands, but I didn't care. Finley went first, then I forced myself through, my injured ankle screaming in protest. The alley was dark, narrow, littered with garbage bins and recycling containers. At the far end, a car sat idling with its lights off. For a moment, terror froze me. They'd said the building was surrounded. This had to be them. Then the driver's door opened, and my brother Deacon stepped out. "Get in," he shouted. "Garrison called me 5 minutes ago, told me everything. I'd never been so happy to see my younger brother in my entire life." We ran, Finley ahead of me, my ankle barely supporting my weight. Behind us, I heard shouts, the sound of the shed door being kicked open. Deacon already had the back door open. I pushed Finley in and dove after him, Deacon slamming the door and jumping into the driver's seat in one fluid motion. "Seat belts," he barked, throwing the car into drive. We peeled out of the alley, tires squealing. In the side mirror, I saw two figures in black tactical gear emerge from beside the shed, weapons drawn but not firing. They wouldn't shoot in a residential area. Too much attention, too many witnesses. "Where are we going?" I asked, pulling Finley close to me. "Garrison gave me very specific instructions," Deacon said, taking a hard right that threw us against the door. "There's a warehouse on the industrial side. He'll meet us there." "You've been in contact with him?" "No, he called me literally 5 minutes before you came through that shed. Said you'd be coming through that exact spot at that exact time. How the hell did he know that?" I looked down at Finley, who was clutching his backpack with white knuckles, his green eyes wide but alert. "Because he planned for this. He planned for everything." Deacon took another sharp turn, constantly checking the mirrors. "Yeah, well, he better have planned for what happens next. Because those people chasing you, they looked like they meant business." I pulled Finley tighter against me, feeling his small heart racing against my arm. In my other hand, I clutched the sealed envelope from the backpack. "Only if they find you. They'd found us. Whatever was in this envelope, whatever Garrison had hidden, it better be worth the life we'd just lost." Because as we sped through the dark streets, I knew with absolute certainty that we could never go back to that apartment, to that normal life we'd built. The knock on the door had changed everything. We were running now, and I didn't know if we'd ever be able to stop. The warehouse sat in darkness at the edge of the industrial district, a massive corrugated metal structure that looked abandoned except for a single car parked near the loading dock. Deacon pulled in slowly, his headlights sweeping across broken windows and rusted doors. My heart hammered as I recognized the car, Garrison's old Ford pickup, the one he'd supposedly sold before disappearing. He stepped out of the shadows, and I barely recognized the man I'd been married to for 10 years. Garrison had lost at least 30 pounds, his face gaunt and covered with a thick beard. His clothes were dark and nondescript, and he moved differently, constantly scanning the environment like a hunted animal. But his eyes, those green eyes that Finley had inherited, burned with the same intensity I remembered. "Daddy." Finley tried to open the car door, but I held him back. "Wait," I said firmly, then looked at Garrison through the window. "You have 30 seconds to explain before we leave." Garrison approached slowly, hands visible, and I noticed the gun tucked into his waistband. "The Corvus Group. They're private military contractors who've been using their government connections to run human trafficking operations. I stumbled onto them 2 years ago during what should have been a routine drug bust. One of the dealers tried to make a deal, said he could give me something bigger. He told me about girls being shipped through the port in containers, about government officials who were taking bribes to look the other way." "So you investigated," Deacon said, getting out of the car but staying between Garrison and us. "I tried to do it officially at first, but every time I got close, evidence would disappear. Witnesses would recant or vanish. Then I realized members of Corvus had people inside the department. They knew every move I was making. I opened my door but kept Finley inside." "So you what? Decided to go rogue? Play superhero?" "I decided to protect my family," Garrison said, his voice breaking slightly. "They came to me 6 months before I left. Showed me pictures of you at work, Finley at school, Deacon at his apartment. They knew everything. Said if I didn't drop the investigation, they'd kill you all and make it look like an accident." "But you didn't stop," I said. It wasn't a question. "No, I made them think I did. Destroyed my official files, told my captain I was dropping it. But I kept everything copied, kept gathering more evidence. I knew they'd eventually figure it out, so I made a deal. I'd disappear completely and they'd leave you alone." "Obviously that didn't work," Deacon said, gesturing at our current situation. "They found out I kept the evidence. Someone leaked security footage from our old house. Garrison pulled out a tablet showing grainy black and white video. Remember that teddy bear I gave Finley for his 5th birthday? The brown one with the red bow tie? Mister." "Buttons," Finley said from inside the car. "He's on my bookshelf." Garrison's face went pale. "You still have it?" "Of course he does," I said. "It was from you. He wouldn't let me pack it away even though he doesn't play with it." "There's a flash drive sewn inside the bear. It has everything: financial records, shipping manifests, recorded conversations, names of every dirty official involved. I hid it there because I knew they'd never suspect a child's toy. But 3 days ago, someone hacked into the old security system and found footage of me putting something inside the bear. So they came for us, I said, the pieces falling into place. They need that flash drive, and they need to eliminate anyone who might have seen what's on it, even if you haven't. Suddenly, headlights flooded the warehouse from 3 directions. Black SUVs surrounded us, their engines rumbling like predators. My body tensed, ready to grab Finley and run, but there was nowhere to go. "Stay calm," Garrison said, but I saw his hand move toward his gun. The middle SUV's door opened, and a woman stepped out. She was dressed in a sharp black suit, not tactical gear, and she held up a badge that gleamed in the headlights. "Agent Rivera, FBI. Mr. Walsh, we've been monitoring your communications for the past 3 months." "How do I know you're really FBI?" Garrison kept his hand near his weapon. She smiled slightly. "Because your former partner, Detective Mills, has been working undercover with us for the past year. He's the one who's been protecting your family without their knowledge." As if on cue, another figure emerged from one of the SUVs. My jaw dropped. It was Mr. Johnson, our new neighbor who'd moved in 6 months ago, the quiet accountant who always helped carry my groceries and played chess with Finley on Saturday mornings. "Hey, partner," Detective Mills said to Garrison, pulling off a fake mustache and glasses. "Told you I'd have your back." "Mills?" Garrison's voice cracked. "You son of a... You've been living next door to them?" "Someone had to keep an eye on them after you vanished. Nice family you got there. Your kid's getting pretty good at chess." Agent Rivera stepped forward. "Mr. Walsh, we need that flash drive. With your evidence and our investigation, we can take down the entire Corvus network. But we need to move tonight. They've mobilized everything they have to find that bear." "How did you know about the bear?" I asked, still trying to process that our boring neighbor had been an undercover detective. "We didn't until tonight," Rivera admitted. "We've been tracking Corvus's movements, and when they suddenly converged on your apartment, Mills alerted us. We've had Mr. Walsh's phone tapped with a warrant for 3 months, hoping he'd eventually make contact. "So you used my family as bait?" Garrison's voice turned dangerous. "We protected your family," Rivera corrected. "Mills has intercepted 3 attempted surveillance operations on them in the last 6 months. Your ex-wife and son were never in danger until tonight, and we were monitoring the situation the entire time." "The people at our apartment?" I asked. "Already in custody. We grabbed them as soon as you got clear, but there are more coming. The Corvus Group is desperate. That flash drive contains evidence that implicates 2 senators, a federal judge, and at least 15 CEOs. We're talking about a conspiracy that goes to the highest levels." Finley pressed his face against the car window. "Does this mean the bad people are going away?" Mills walked over and knelt by the window. "Yeah, buddy. The bad people are going away. Your dad's evidence is going to put them in prison for a very long time." "But we need to get that bear now," Rivera said urgently. "Our intel suggests Corvus has another team heading to your apartment. If they get that evidence first, they'll destroy it and disappear. Years of investigation will be worthless." Garrison looked at me, and for the first time in 8 months, I saw the man I'd fallen in love with. Not the paranoid detective, not the secretive investigator, but the protector who'd whispered promises to our newborn son. "We go together," I said, "as a family. We finish this together." He nodded, tears threatening to spill. "Together." Rivera's phone buzzed. She answered it, her face growing serious. "We have a problem. Corvus has taken hostages at the apartment building. They're demanding the bear in exchange for the residents' safety." The warehouse fell silent except for the rumbling of engines. The game had just changed. This wasn't just about evidence anymore. Innocent people were in danger because of secrets hidden in my son's teddy bear. 3 weeks later, the Corvus Group's entire operation had been dismantled. The FBI raids happened simultaneously across 12 states, resulting in 43 arrests that made headlines on every major news network. 2 senators were indicted, a federal judge was removed from the bench, and 15 CEOs faced charges ranging from money laundering to conspiracy to commit murder. The flash drive hidden in Finley's teddy bear had contained over 2 terabytes of evidence, recorded conversations, financial transactions, even videos of Corvus operatives discussing their crimes. We sat in our new house in Oregon, courtesy of the Witness Protection Program, though Agent Rivera assured us it was temporary. With Corvus completely dismantled and its leadership facing life sentences, we'd be able to return to normal life soon. Whatever normal meant anymore. Garrison stood in the kitchen making spaghetti, Finley's request, and I watched him from the doorway. He moved carefully around me, still uncertain of his place in our reorganized life. The divorce papers were still legally binding, though neither of us had mentioned them since that night at the warehouse. "Mom, is Dad staying for dinner?" Finley asked from the living room where he was building a Lego spaceship. Garrison and I exchanged glances. "Yeah, buddy, Dad's staying for dinner." "What about tomorrow?" "We're figuring it out," I said honestly, day by day. That evening, after Finley had gone to bed, Garrison and I sat on the back porch of our safe house. The Oregon mountains stretched out before us, so different from the city life we'd known. "I know I broke us," Garrison said quietly, staring at his coffee mug. "I thought keeping secrets would protect you. I thought if you didn't know anything, they couldn't hurt you, but secrets almost got you killed." "Why didn't you just tell me the truth from the beginning?" I asked, a question that had been burning in my mind for weeks, because I was terrified. The day Finley was born, when I held him for the first time, I realized I had everything to lose. The Corvus group had killed entire families. They'd murdered a prosecutor's wife and children just to send a message. I couldn't risk that happening to you. So you decided to carry that weight alone. I thought I was being strong. Turns out I was being stupid. I thought about all those nights he'd paced our house, checking locks, installing cameras. What I'd dismissed as paranoia had been the behavior of a man carrying an impossible burden. You weren't stupid. You were scared. There's a difference. "I should have trusted you," he said. "Should have trusted that we could face it together." My phone buzzed with a text from Deacon. "BBQ this weekend? Mom wants to see her grandson, and she says you both better be there." I smiled, showing Garrison the message. "My mother has spoken. She still hates me, doesn't she? She's warming up." Slowly. The fact that you saved our lives earned you some points. That night, as I tucked Finley into bed, he asked the question I'd been dreading. "Mom, are the bad people really gone? Forever?" "Yes, baby," Agent Rivera called today. "Every single member of the Corvus group is either in custody or under surveillance. They can't hurt anyone anymore." "Because Daddy stopped them?" "Because Daddy, Uncle Deacon, Detective Mills, and a lot of brave FBI agents stopped them. And because we stuck together when it mattered." He smiled sleepily, hugging the famous teddy bear, Mr. Buttons, which the FBI had returned after extracting the flash drive. "Can I keep Mr. Buttons? Even though he had secrets in him? Of course. But no more secrets in our family, okay?" "No more secrets," he agreed, already drifting off to sleep. I found Garrison standing in the hallway when I came out, tears running down his face. "Thank you," he said simply, "for trusting me when it mattered. For running when I said run. For not giving up on me even when I gave up on myself. We're not fixed," I told him honestly. "Trust takes time to rebuild. You hurt us by leaving even if you thought you were protecting us. I know, but maybe we can start with no more secrets?" "No more secrets," I agreed. Over the following months, we attended family therapy together. Garrison had to earn back Finley's trust, had to prove he wouldn't disappear again. He had to earn back my trust too, had to show me that he could share his burdens instead of shouldering them alone. It wasn't easy. There were setbacks, arguments, moments when I wondered if we could really repair what had been broken. But gradually, we found our way back to each other. Not to who we'd been before. That was impossible. We were different people now, shaped by trauma and survival. But maybe we were stronger for it. Detective Mills, whose real name turned out to be David, became a regular visitor. He and Garrison rekindled their partnership, now working as consultants for the FBI on cases involving private military contractors. It gave Garrison purpose again, a way to use his investigative skills without the paranoia that came from working alone. 6 months after that night of terror, we stood in a courthouse in Portland, not for another divorce proceeding, but to legally remarry. Finley was our ring bearer, proudly carrying the simple bands we'd chosen. My mother cried through the entire ceremony, while Deacon cracked jokes to lighten the mood. "Do you promise to share all information no matter how dangerous?" the judge asked with a slight smile, having heard our story. "I do," Garrison said, looking directly at me. "And do you promise to trust your partner even when your instinct is to protect them through distance?" "I do," he repeated, squeezing my hand. Looking back now, that knock on the door that September night had shattered our life. But sometimes things need to break before they can be rebuilt stronger. Garrison's paranoia, which I'd resented for so long, had saved our lives. Every lock he'd checked, every escape route he'd planned, every drill he'd made us practice, it had all mattered in those crucial 45 seconds. The Corvus group had thought we were loose ends to be tied up, collateral damage in their criminal empire. They hadn't counted on a father's love being stronger than fear, or a family's bonds surviving even forced separation. They hadn't counted on Garrison playing a longer game, gathering evidence even as they threatened everything he loved. Most importantly, they hadn't counted on us staying together when it mattered most. These days, we live without secret rooms or hidden flash drives, but we still have good locks on our doors, and we still practice safety drills with Finley, though now they feel more like family bonding than paranoid preparation. We've learned that awareness isn't paranoia when there are real threats in the world, but we've also learned that facing those threats together is always better than facing them alone. The knock that came that night wasn't just a threat, it was a revelation. It showed us that the monsters Garrison had been fighting were real, but it also showed us that we were stronger than those monsters when we stood together. And in the end, that's the most important lesson of all. Sometimes, the people who seem paranoid are the ones who see danger others miss. And sometimes the only thing standing between your family and disaster is preparation, courage, and the warning that comes just in time. But above all, we learned that secrets, no matter how well-intentioned, can be more dangerous than the threats they're meant to protect against. Truth, trust, and togetherness. Those are the real shields against the darkness. If you enjoyed this story and want to hear more real-life tales of survival, courage, and families facing the impossible, make sure to like this video and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Drop a comment below telling me what you would have done in this situation. Would you have run or would you have tried to face them? And don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell so you never miss another story. Thank you for watching. And remember, sometimes the people who love us most show it in the strangest ways.